may end up deleting this video. I don't know. It's just a test run, basically. But you never know. Maybe I'll tell the story correctly. But a lot of detail I'm going to leave out. However, I just found this magazine amidst a bunch of other magazines in this house. And it's from something like 2011 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Oh no, 2008. June, July 2008. Inside, Outside magazine. Yeah, so, and of course now it's 2025. However, I don't know who this author is in the story here. See if I find it. Pretty, this story here, I was on the fringes of this story, and I was basically, by corrupt elements, the attempt thereof was made to incriminate me somehow, even though I was innocent, 100% innocent. And this story is, this guy here, by Ron Dungan, or Dungan, it's either Dungan or Dungan, D-U-N-G-A-N. The story, Riddles of a Dead Manhunt. Riddles of a Dead Manhunt. 10 years later, it happened in 98. I'll never forget it. Never forget it. The guy in the middle picture, one of the fugitives, I grew up with him. He was one of my best friends. Yeah. And he got involved with some shenanigans that costed him his life and costed his friends their lives, which I never met these two guys. The other two guys I never met. However, I'm going to leave out a whole bunch of details, especially names. But yeah, here's the Bible right here. I'm a Christian, although I smoke the devil's lettuce and drink the green Kool-Aid. But anyways, I swear before God this day that I am telling the truth. So help me God, I mean it. I'm not lying. So, anyways, so yeah, that's the article here. It's pretty amazing. The question here was, now there's been other books written about this event. It's a pretty famous event that happened. And 1 dead cop, 3 dead fugitives, and 10 years to understand why. So, why? So, comma, why? Question mark. So, anyways. Yeah, there's a lot of mysteries to it. I know some of the mysteries that other people don't, and other people know mysteries that I don't. But Monty Python was involved with some things, and I was on the fringes of that. Although I had been gone for a couple of years when this incident happened, and hadn't even been back here to this region, southwestern Colorado, where I live. I've been working and living on the East Coast. And I, at the time, was working at an old military hospital. It used to be National Orthopedic when I first started working there, and then they changed the name to Pentagon City Hospital. I was working there, and I worked in the special care unit. And I'd been there a couple of years, this facility. And I was working in this unit. It's called the special care unit, and I was over charting on a patient. I was a respiratory therapist. Speaking of which, I'm going to hit the devil's lettuce, okay? So I was working as a respiratory therapist in this critical care setting, long-term critical care setting, in a pretty large hospital, in a big city clear on the East Coast, couple thousand miles from where I'm at right now, at least. Right? Well, I'm gonna back up a little bit. So that's where I was living when this incident happened. But maybe I'll just keep going from there. I will say though that I've had authors interview me, and in fact, one of them, the late great Mark Lane, who was the founder of the Liberty Lobby in Washington D.C., begged me for my story, and he promised me, like he was really eager, and he promised me that I would be an immediately wealthy man if he allowed me to be flown back to Washington D.C. Because that's where I just left when he called me. I'd been living there, and Northern Virginia, Pentagon, where I talked about Pentagon City Hospital and all that. Okay, and so Mark Lane, he was the head of the Liberty Lobby in Washington D.C. He was a powerful attorney, and he was the CEO of this organization that the Liberty Lobby basically fought against. They represented people that fought against government corruption, scandals and things, right? And so he was also the founder of, or not, he was also the author of the book JFK, Mark Lane. You can look it on the internet. He's passed on now. But anyways, he called me up. I had just left DC, and I was doing a medical contract in Wichita, Kansas, and I was scared for my life too, and I had reason to be because of the fringes of this. And it's really insane. So Mark Lane offered me, he's like, I'll fly you back to Washington, D.C. And he said, I have a townhome on Capitol Hill. And if you make an agreement with me to allow me to interview you for 3 months, I'll make you an immediately wealthy man for your information. And he said, you'll never have to work again. He wanted my information so bad. Promise, I'm telling the truth. And the reason I turned him down is because I just had turned around also. I had 2 previous interviews with FBI that it was recommended that I go on witness protection program. I asked a few questions, and quite a few questions to these agents. And I was like, no, I don't want to not be able to see my mom ever again, or my brother, or my sister, or my family. Yeah, and disappear. What you can do with me? I was scared. I really was scared, and I was terrified. Not just of that, but what was uncovered, and I have to be careful of names, and so I may jump around a little bit. So whoever gets this video, if they want to interview me, perhaps about it, just whatever discrepancy that maybe you have with the what I'm elaborating here, just ask me questions upon it, and we can discuss it. And but either way, Mark Lane, I was living in Wichita. He called me up. He wanted a story, and he said, "Give me a week to think about it." And he said, "Okay." Called me back a week later, and I had made a decision to not tell the story in such great detail. Okay, I'd already given some of the information, but I didn't want to go into a whole bunch of detail because I thought it all out, and I thought, it was pretty terrifying, and I thought, not only would I be in danger of being assassinated, there were other people that would die. And and this is true. And it's like I don't even like bringing it up again. It's like it's one of the hardest things that ever happened to me in my life. It's life changing. It really rattled me, and I turned down the FBI, but it changed my life to the point where I've always kind of like always like wear a hoodie, you know what I mean? And especially when I returned to the region that this happened in, okay? And it was because of this event, is the reason I was offered witness protection program. There were some dirty elements in law enforcement that wanted to murder me or have me murdered. And that was out of the words of a federal agent. And and the reason is because I knew about some of their shenanigans. And it was pretty bad. And I think it's even worse now. I don't know. I have no information about it whatsoever, the current activity in the region. But back then there was a lot of like several pounds of dope coming and going right out of the trunk of a dare car, right? A corrupt police officer. And I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but this is long years ago. And that guy didn't get caught or anything, right? And all those drugs went on the street and everything. And there was a corrupt element in that community, and there was a disgruntledness upon the lack of justice and the deliverance of injustice upon certain people. And I think, in just my opinion, my humble opinion, because I don't know for sure, I wasn't in Monty's shoes, I wasn't in his head, but I know, and I never met the other guys, right? But I know that I feel strongly that he was involved on the same fringes of the criminal syndicate, if you want to call it a syndicate. I don't know what to call it, but like, it's organized crime, trafficking, huge amounts of trafficking of all kinds, including human beings, right? And Monty got to see the face of that, and I think he lost his head on it. I think maybe that's my humble opinion, is that he was like, okay, there's no justice, no peace. I might as well strap on a bulletproof vest and drive this water truck, steal this water truck, and me and my two buddies that died with me, maybe he had that mindset. And that's just my humble opinion. But nonetheless, here goes the story. So I'm living in Northern Virginia. I'd been there a couple years, and I was already like pretty well involved with the whole community. I mean, I've been there a couple years, man. I had more than a couple of jobs, and I was involved in humanitarian work too. I went over to Bosnia and everything, and I had a roommate who lived just south of DC, and we had a really nice home, really beautiful house, right on the beach of the Potomac, where it was like 3 miles across. A place called Matthias Point, beautiful, beautiful community, huge house, very nice house, beautiful home, and and I drove like an hour at least to get to work on a good day with good traffic, and sometimes 3 on bad days. I mean, if you hit it the wrong time, the metro area, Washington D.C., Baltimore, not all the cities are right there, right? So, in Northern Virginia, Arlington, and everything. And so I worked in Pentagon City. I worked in Pentagon City Hospital. I think it's in Pentagon City, which is where the Pentagon of the United States is. And when I started working there, it was named National Orthopedic, and it was a military facility. And then I think at that point it went civilian, and I was working there anyways in the special care unit, like I mentioned. And don't worry, I won't burn the house down. But so I'm like, I'm working in And it's like still daylight out. It's like I was working day shift apparently, and it's 1998, May 28th, I believe. And one of my coworkers I worked with, she was a nurse. She leaned out the door of a patient's room. She was in a patient's room. She was all gowned up in isolation garb. And I was at the nurse's station charting on a patient. And she leaned out to the room and she goes, Scott, aren't you from Dove Creek, Colorado? And I said, yeah. And she said, it's on CNN right now. I think it was CNN, one of those MSNBC, CNN, which I don't remember exactly. So, but it was one of the big ones. I think it was CNN. I don't know. And my exact words, I said, bullshit. My exact words are bullshit. And she said, no, I swear to God, it's on. So I had to gown up, right? And 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 go in this patient's room who was in isolation to watch it on the news. And I quickly gowned up and I went in there and I'm standing there, and sure enough, it's the beginning of this story right here, right? That's in this magazine. And so it's like, okay. And I just had a bad feeling. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't have any leads of preliminary knowledge that this was going to happen. I had no idea. And so it took me by surprise. But something told me that Monty was involved. Something deep inside me told me, even though I denied it still. Because I went to the first thing I did is I ungowned, went to the nurse's station, got out my phone card, and dialed and I got an outside line and called Monty's house, his parents' house, and his mom answered the phone, and she was just frazzled immediately, and she said she thought they think it's Monty, and I told her, I said, no, it's not Monty. I said, there's no way. I was still in the denial phase because I knew. I mean, I think I knew. I don't know, somehow, but I ended up. I was like, hey, I said, just sit tight, Bev. You know, I mean, police were already all visiting with Beverly and Jim, Monty's parents, and so, but I was like, I'll find Monty, and I called this very house that I'm sitting in right now, the landline number, and Clinton answered the phone, my friend Clinton, and he said, yeah, they think it's Monty. I was like, oh my God, you know, I was just like, oh no, he was like our best friend. He was like part of our. I mean, I've known him since grade school, I'm guessing, right? So, it's like, well, he was one of my best friends. I ate dinner at his house all the time. He ate dinner at my house all the time. We'd make fun of each other's moms. You know, oh, your mom wears combat boots, and just we grew up together. And we went camping, and when we got older, we went camping, hunting, fishing, everything together, right? Just all of us that grew up right here in the immediate area here. And I grew up here as a teenager, and I left home when I was 16, and I moved out of here when I was 17. And I've been living elsewhere for the most part. For the most part, I've been back here a few times where I had summer jobs and things, and it's nice around here. And I'm an outdoorsman, and you get tired of living in places like New York and Chicago, or traveling or whatever you're doing. And this is a great place. It's a good region. And so I've always frequented here and hung out with Monty every time I come back, right? And we go drinking and shooting guns and camping and that kind of thing, and including other friends that show up too. And there'd usually be a party or something, or two or three, and so that's the lifestyle we had here, and it was as normal as any of the other people we hung out. We all hung out here in this small town, right? And everybody knew each other back then, particularly. Not so much now, I don't think, but back in those days, everyone knew each other. more so, I think. But so, anyways, I'm I'm like freaked out. I'm at the hospital. It's still daylight. I call my roommate and where I lived, and and see, I had already had some friends who were FBI agents, and they used to go. We used to have parties at, at my friend's house, and we'd have dignitaries and whatnot to these parties in hopes of fundraising for the humanitarian organization that we were trying to operate in behalf of various wars in the Balkans, particularly Bosnia, all that stuff. But anyway, so uh, in the in interacting with all these individuals at these parties, I met these FBI agents, and we became friends. They were interesting, and it was totally consensual, no investigation or anything. But they were international agents, international operators, and um, uh, just really intellectual type individuals. One was an attorney. I don't remember what the other one was. Previously to being federal agents, right? And I won't say their names, or at least I'll try not to on here. So, anyways, I and my roommate was friends with these guys long before I met them, right? And so my roommate, I'll just say his name, John. John said, when I told him about, hey, do you think it's Monty? And he knew about Monty. He never met Monty, but he knew about Monty prior to that because um, he'd met some of my friends and myself. We had talked about Monty on several occasions. And in fact, I was trying to get Monty a job with the same company that I worked for, which was Response International. And other than Pentagon City Hospital, I was also working for Response International. And Emergency Medical Response Agency was its name prior to that. But so uh, John said, "Okay, can you get off work?" And I said, "Yeah, I can get off. I'm going to get up right now." And he said, "Well, I'm going to call," and I won't say their names on here because of the type of work that they do and or have done. I I don't know their retirement status thoroughly, so I want to make sure that I don't because I promised them I wouldn't just be saying their names and FBI friends and stuff like that because they do operate on a clandestine level and they do hunt international terrorists. So they were always going overseas and also they were following people in the United States, and this was many years ago. And I was on the fringes of that too, and it was just interesting to be around these gentlemen, and I enjoyed their company, and so, but we became friends enough to where John called him up, and by the time I had made that trip down to where we lived, hour and a half, whatever it was, they were waiting for me, and I was just so stressed out. I was so stressed out, and Dave walked right up to me and he said, Scott, he said, so do you know a guy named Jerry Martin? And I said, yeah. I said, he's the sheriff of Dolores County. They were like, yeah, right, right. Well, we just stopped him from putting you in handcuffs and putting you on a Learjet and flying you all the way to Cortez, Colorado to be thoroughly interrogated. I was like, no. I was just mind boggled. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Okay, literally, I wanted to puke. Okay, I mean, it was like, why, right? And yeah, so let me think about how I want to approach this just for a second. So then, take a sip here. I smoked the devil's lettuce. Now I'm going to drink the devil's Kool-Aid, but it doesn't have any alcohol in it. The reason I call it the devil's Kool-Aid is, it's got like yellow number 5 and green number 3 or whatever. and some sugar. Probably just as more poisonous than the actual devil's lettuce, aka marijuana. Nonetheless, so so anyways, the next 3 days were it was really extremely hard, and I'm going to leave out a whole bunch of information. For the sake of just making this video short, and it's past my bedtime. Way past it. It's like midnight. And I got to stay up late to keep the house warm because it's freezing cold and the wind's blowing. And yeah, I got to keep the pipes from freezing. This is my only source of heat in this old turn of the century cabin that I live in. Turn of the last century. So, anyways, so let's see. I'll just skip one quick story, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm not 100% sure exactly because it happened so fast. Some of the information, but there was a lot of information. But I'll tell you one story. At some point in time, I don't remember which day of the search it was, but I know it was within the first 3 days. I see now. The Fed handlers, which were my friends, they became my handlers immediately. They totally, and this is why. When I showed up, we sat at the picnic table. We always met out at the picnic table and had lunch or whatever. They'd show up, and I mean, even if we had other friends, we always had this nice, beautiful yard and picnic table, and everyone liked to hang out there. And so we were sitting there, and they had tape recorders and notepads. And they asked me a lot of questions. And I'm going to skip definitely names on things, but see, I had information already, and I knew they were obviously trying to railroad me back here in this area. They're trying to railroad me and label me something that I was not. And so I told my friends what I knew. And what I knew is that, and I'm not going to say any names, is that there was a district attorney and a judge. I can't remember. She was not a state appointee. She was like an elected judge, I believe, in the community. And there was other officers, whatnot. I don't know how many people I named off. And these individuals were of law enforcement and government, high and elected, and they were doing all kinds of organized crime shit, right? Making loot, making money, making the bank for their fancy retirements. And they wanted to really take people down. They wanted to take some people down illegitimately and take the attention off themselves, I think is what ended up transpiring, all in all. And so anyways, we were sitting at that picnic table, and I told them about that information. And first, and it really was just, it's so stressed out, I'll never forget it. At first, my FBI friends didn't believe me. They were like, "Oh, Scott," they're like this. They're, we hear this shit all the time, dude. And it never turns out to be true. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you then, because that's what I got. And they were like, okay, well, we'll look into it. And I was like, fucking bite my nails and chain smoking cigarettes. I used to smoke now, I don't smoke anymore, but I chain smoking cigarettes and I think I started drinking too. It was like, okay, I gotta have a drink, about that time. And it was like the next day, they showed up immediately, and they were like all eyeballs wide-eyed, and they had their own intel of surveillance intel of substantiation of my allegations, right? And so there you can see. Anyways, that's how that ball got rolling, right? That is the beginning of the most stressful thing that's probably ever happened to me in my entire life. But, well, no, it's one of the top, definite top three. Okay, I've been around a little bit, but it definitely changed my life. Like I said, I was at 18 months later. Let's see, it was about 16 months later. Let's see, no, the first time I was, and that was scary when I'm going to back up. When the first time I was offered witness protection program, it wasn't really an offer. It was like a very awkward exact words were, "You better shut your fucking mouth or you're going on the witness protection program." Like that. It was said to me like that. By not my FBI friends, but another FBI agent that was out here. Okay, and I didn't trust her from the beginning. And there ended up being a reason for it. And but she did tell me that she said her exact words were, "Well, they want you dead. They're just trying to figure out who the fuck you are." That was her exact words. And the people who wanted me dead were people you'd think are respectable in the community and would never do any criminal activity. Literally, like we're talking people who wouldn't jaywalk. Okay, I mean, people. I mean, they have that appearance, but no, man, they're and but anyways, so that's how that's the story right here. That was the beginning of a very hard. I didn't want to involve with any of that stuff, any of this stuff, man. I had no involvement, and I wanted no involvement with any of it, of course. And I had my whole life out there, and I wasn't planning on coming back here. I was trying to get Monty to actually move. He was a mechanic, and I was trying to get him to go to Bosnia, overseas, to be on a humanitarian mission as a mechanic for our convoys. And I got him a job pretty much lined out. We were just working him into. I remember the budget. We were working him into the budget for our grants, and we were in that process. And this happened. And so, but I mean, I was on the phone with him a couple weeks prior to this happened, just 2 weeks prior to this, May 28th, 1998. And so man, anyways. So, anyways, let's see, where do I go from now? Alright, so, I'm going to skip a whole bunch, just for the sake of going to bed. Let's go back, kind of set the pace for the story. I'm leaving a whole bunch out, whole bunch of information out. But let's go back to the picnic table. Oh, the next day, actually, the FBI showed up, and Scott, you were right. We didn't believe you, but now you're right. You got any more information? It was like that. And I really didn't have any more information, but I got the ball rolling there. And it was a big ball. It was a bad big ball. My God. Whew, like, so, at one point I was offered to be flown in a Learjet, possibly, I was put on deck to be flown in a Learjet from Washington D.C. all the way to um, um, Cortez, Colorado, or Bluff, or it was southeastern Utah, to possibly deal with like if there was a hostage situation with and so they wanted me to at their expense, at federal expense, to fly out there. Possibly, I was put on deck. I didn't do this, and to help with the negotiation, the surrender of Monty and his friends. And I said, absolutely, I'll do it. And I'm going to leave a bunch of information out right now. I need to make sure I don't step on any toes, and I have great respect for my FBI friends. And they're very good guys. They're very good people. These two individuals that I know, and there was actually three. Another one I met. He was a really neat guy too. They were international operators. They spent a lot of time overseas in war zones and stuff. So, and they're multilingual. Very interesting people, and rather, in my opinion, like high level dudes. Okay, definitely high level dudes, and right out, dealing with Washington and the Pentagon and all that stuff. I mean, so, but anyways, so, let's see. And so I was put on deck to fly out there, and then all of a sudden, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. They're like, Scott, you mind going with us to, um, the head USGS office? It's actually right by CIA and all that. It's not in Langley, it's in, but it's like Langley is where the CIA is, right? Uh, Next suburb over, which is right next to, it's very close to CIA. Oh, what's the name of that town? Uh, it's a city. I mean, it's all like metro area, right? Anyways, um, but it was the head USGS office for the entire United States. They had every map in the world. This facility, I mean, they work closely with all the major, CIA, FBI, Pentagon. They work with any operation, and this is where it blew my mind. This blew my mind. So they were like, are you willing to go with us up to this facility? I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. So we went lights and siren, one light and one siren, and a little FBI. It was kind of funny. Me and John laughed about it later, but uh, they had the light with the stick on the top, and basically people were just flipping us off in traffic, and weren't really giving us any space, and it took us longer than we probably should have to get there. And I really didn't know what was going on. I was kind of freaked out about it. I was like, what the hell are they? Where were they taking me? Right? And but at the same time, man, I was very eager to intervene and try and save Monty's life. That was my goal, was to try and save Monty's life. So, and I was unsuccessful in that. Okay, and I cried for. I mean, I'm telling you, every day for an entire year, I cried every single day after they found him dead, and probably before that because I knew he was dead. I mean, you know what I mean. I mean, the variables and all that. I didn't think he was alive. Everyone else was like, "Oh, he's out there somewhere," but I was. Anyways, but so we go to this facility, and there's a guy. He's 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 in a police uniform, like, and he's holding a shotgun at the entrance. And I remember he had bald hair or bald head and whatnot, and he just made eye contact. And we went in, and I was there was four of us, me, John and I, and our two federal friends. And we went into this facility and walked down the hall. We went in this door, and there was a big room we were in, great big giant room. And it had a bunch of drawers, map drawers, just thousands of maps in this room. And that was just one big room in this giant building. It was a huge building, not very many stories tall, but it was like massive complex, right? And many different buildings, I think. And so we're in this room, and there was more individuals in there. There was probably like, I don't know for sure, probably like 8 or 10 people, and I could tell they were law enforcement of some type, officials of some type, because they had guns and they had badges. Although I didn't go up and read their badges, and they asked me to wait here by this map drawer. They said, "Wait right here, Scott," and where we have a little powwow. And I was the only one there. John and my two bed friends went together and started talking to these other guys. And then all of a sudden, this other guy, not even talking to those guys, he was on the phone, and I didn't even know he was part of this whole ordeal. He was like 30 feet, 40 feet away over to my right, and my friends are having a powwow right here, and this guy goes, he held the phone like, he was like, officer down, Bluff, Utah, officer down. I swear, I'm telling the truth. And I was like, what? And then my friends, they come over and they're like, hey, bring him over here. And so I went over to this other map. They pulled out these map drawers. Can you tell us about Bluff? Can you tell us about this canyon, the swinging bridge and all that? And I've never been on the swinging bridge, but I knew the area a little bit. I mean, I couldn't, so I felt really awkward. I felt like I really couldn't provide as much information as I mean, I'm not from Bluff, but I'm near from here. I can tell you a little bit about the terrain, right? And but um, so I didn't. It was pretty awkward for me, but um, yeah. Oh yeah. So then this is crazy. So then they had a little powwow again, and he left me aside. And all of a sudden they came back, and one of my FBI friends, he goes, Scott, he said, uh, don't you worry about a thing, because I could tell you could tell I was just ready to puke, right? I was just so like this, and he said, don't you worry about a thing, Scott. You're with us. You're safe. You're with us, and we got you back. And they were really nice to me, really reassured me, and I felt a lot better. And they said, we're sending a C-130 from Quantico, Virginia, Marine Commandos to go hunt for these, for Monty and Jason and me. And I was like, wow, okay. And they were just calling, oh, we're going to find him. And I was like, just sick to my stomach. I thought, well, probably not alive. It sounds to me that they're going to end up, they're just going to end up dead. I mean, it just seemed to me that it was that dramatic. And it was just very, very, almost like despair. You know what I mean? It really was. Uh, Reliving it is, I try not to relive it too vividly because it really was extremely stressful. So I'd have to have Kool-Aid with alcohol in it. So anyways, but in a nutshell, I didn't choose the witness protection program. I turned down to be a wealthy man, to write a book, to be in a book. And I kind of regret it. I do. I should have told Mark Lane, bet your ass, put me on that plane. I was so scared. And I hate Washington, D.C. I spent a few years there, and in that metro area. And I have good friends there, and I hope to be visiting here soon. But I really don't like it there. Either way, the story I just told was true, and it's but I didn't take the witness protection program, but I've lived a life kind of half witness protection program, just on my own creation, Yes, I have. It's definitely this event and this story here in this magazine is definitely um, I'm definitely well more traveled and conscientious of my surroundings and people and everything than I ever would have been if I hadn't experienced the traumatic, horrific events, the fringes of it, because it devastated a lot of people. This ordeal, it ruined um, lives, destroyed multiple lives, and yeah, so it was like, and a lot of people were injured, so physically and emotionally for decades. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, and it really is a nutshell because I left out a lot of detail on purpose. So God bless peeps, man. I really gotta put a log on the fire and see if I can shut my mind down.